the luncheon. Come on down, y'all.
All right, Ms. Beauregard.
Hey, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And thank you to AASLH for having us. My name is Sandra Ogogar. I'm the office manager at SAAACAM. That's the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum. I'll be your moderator for this panel discussion with my colleagues, Jeff, Taylor, and Deborah. We also have our archivist here recording, Tara Spena. And so here to give you a little bit more about our organization is our CAO, Jeff May.
Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? Good. They messed up and put us like right after lunch, so we're gonna do our best, right, to make the best use of this time and also understand some people may have the itis. If you don't know what the itis means, we'll define it after this session. But we are so excited to be with you. We are the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum. That is a long name, so you'll see SAAACAM is our acronym, right? And at the heart of what we do is community, and at the heart of any community are people. So today we really want to talk about culture and how we maintain a culture. And that's, you know, a big term, right? And a lot of people use a lot of terminologies. They talk about a lot of things, but typically don't talk about the people, right? We're a people-centered organization because people are the center of what we do every day at SAAACAM, where our mission is to collect, preserve, and share the African American history of the San Antonio region. And in San Antonio, our percentage of Black folks is 7%, a whopping 7%, which is probably amazing when you think about, as of November of last year, we became overnight the third largest African American museum in the country.
Yes.
The third largest. We can clap. So, and the staff is clapping for that, not because it's a flex to say, but in the way that we had to grow and stretch as a staff. Our current exhibit space is 730 square feet. The building that we purchased is 103,000 square feet. So again, it created a situation where now we're the third largest African American museum in the country, but at the heart of what we do is not the square footage, it's not all the artifacts and the sponsorships, it's not this beautiful building that we purchased with historical roots, it's still the people. So today, we want to put before you the aspect of culture from a people-centered lens. At our museum, we have approximately 30 staff members. We only have 3 males on staff. So I can end the session right there because if you know like I know, nobody gets it done like Black and brown women. Nobody gets it done like Black and brown women. The end. My mother and grandmother would be proud to hear me say that, right? But I feel like that's something to be said when our median age in our museum is 32. The youngest person on staff is 18. Y'all see what we're doing? If museums are not going to be a dead business, you've got to diversify your ages. Now, I just offended some people, that's cool. But we look at museums doing it in a different way. Y'all hear what I'm saying? We have to engage everybody at every level because who are we going to give this to when we're no longer in front? Someone who has hopefully grown up in the business. So we got started in 2017, so we're still a baby in the game. And again, in 2026, we will cut the ribbon on officially the third largest African American museum in a place where African Americans are only 7%. For us, we do it with intentionality, we do it with grace, but we also do it with people. So that's who we are. Kicking it back over to Sam.
Thank you, Jeff. So according to museums moving forward, workplace culture is a living embodiment of an organization's norms, values, and day-to-day environment. So something really unique, one of the many unique things about our organization, when we came up with our mission and vision statement, we all did it together. We had a group trip in Dallas. We went to go tour some museums together, which is something that we do pretty frequently. And so when we were coming together to come up with our vision, mission, and values, with 8 different people, you have eight different ideas, right? 8 different heads. And so it took us a long time. We were working like long, long days. I don't even want to tell you how long it was, but it really, you can tell the difference, right, in this organization, because we all understand, have a deep understanding, because we worked through the verbiage. I'll give you an example. One of the values that was put forth was professionalism. And as a brown woman in our spaces, we recognize that professionalism is kind of a coded word. And so we had a really difficult conversation because some people, and I understand this too, right? You work so hard for your degrees and all of these things, but at the same time, you can still be professional, without your degree, or two, right, the hair that you wear, or the size of your earrings, or the shoes, whatever it may be, right? Professionalism is a coded word. And so we all came together, and we hashed it out, and we decided on the word excellence. Because this is just better to describe, right, all of us. We all recognize what excellence means. There's no question of, how did they mean that? And so this is an example of just how we work together. So today we're going to be discussing how we lead. And so the 3 key points to our leadership style is we lead with compassion. Jeff talked a lot about how people are at the center. We're very much, I'm a mother of 3, I bring that to my space all the time. So one of our other key points is sharing the vision. So again, when we sat down and we all came together to work on the verbiage of our mission, our vision, and our values, we really made sure that everybody felt heard and included. And then protecting our culture. I think it's so important because, just the smallest thing, if you don't address it right away, it festers. So, we really try to, if something's bothering someone, we recognize it, we address it. We don't want anybody to feel any kind of way. And so I want to take this time to introduce my team. Again, my name is Sandra Gogar. I'm the office manager. I'm a mother of 3, and I'm a graduate student at UTSA. So, Jeff?
My name is Jeff May. I serve as the Chief Administrative Officer, or COO, of SAAACAM. And in my role, in my job, culture shows up in how we lead our leaders, right? Because we understand that compassion, that leadership, or that toxic stuff comes from the top down. So I also understand that leaders are people. So at the heart of anything, the 3 words that really keep me in play and keep me in check is, are you okay? Are you okay? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. There's something else there, right? Because you're an individual, you're a human too. And I also approach people the way I needed to be approached, because I too am a victim of a toxic work environment. Anybody in here can attest, come on somebody, right? Where they tell you can't take it home, but it affects home. And it affected my mental health. It affected everything about me to where I wasn't who I needed to be. All because I was in a toxic situation where microaggressions was present. Anybody just want to nod, right? Hypervigilance was present. Anybody want to nod? And because I was the only one, and always the only one in some spaces, that carried a weight for me. And as a man, especially as a black man, to say that I'm vulnerable, to say that I'm weak, to say that I have some vulnerabilities here, I'm hurt here, I don't feel safe as a black man here, not only freed me, but it freed people who look like me, who needed me to say it. Y'all hear what I'm saying? That's how I lead. And that's why I lead the way I do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Seward, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for SAAACAM. And may I say that I go to work every day to do something that I'm passionate about. It doesn't feel like a job, so I know it's where I belong. I'm able to participate and lean into our mission, and then bring the community into what we're doing. Culture impacts my area through how our organization shows up. What do I mean by that? The culture of our organization is family-centered. and it's family, and I would say also community-centered. It's at the heart of everything that we do at SAAACAM, family and community. We treat each other as family. We speak to each other in a way that is loving and kind and respectful, and where we hear each other. We just don't let the words come and pass through. We really lean into each other's likes and dislikes and any issues that we might have with one another, because I know families also argue, right? And as Sandra alluded to earlier, if there's a problem, we address it at that moment so that it doesn't fester and it doesn't lead into other things. So our values and how we live them, they show up in the work that we do. So I'm really pleased that you guys are here today to just hear a little bit about the culture at SAAACAM and how we can work things out to be the growing organization that we are.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Foots. I'm the exhibit space supervisor here at SAAACAM. I lead a staff of 6 young people from ages 18 to 25. I am 27, but I have been told I look a bit younger than that. And this is my first time in a leadership position like this. I think I have a really unique perspective because this is my first, adult job, and I'm in a very positive work environment. I don't come from a museum background. I've always loved museums. I haven't always felt welcome there, but it feels really special to me to now work at one and feel at home there, and also feel at home with my coworkers. I'm really excited to talk about how SAAACAM has really poured into me and how I've developed as a leader, as a woman, and what I've just learned about working in a place where you feel seen and you feel safe. I feel really encouraged and empowered, even when I don't always feel confident in these new spaces that I'm in. And so I'm really excited to talk about how that space has been created and how I get to develop that for my young staff members, and hopefully how y'all can do that for your teams as well.
Thank you. And again, this is our archivist here, Kyra Spenrad.
Love her.
I don't want to call her out, but she's 30, so if you go to some of these spaces, that's kind of a rarity to have a young brown woman as your archivist. So, and you can really tell the difference with the wonderful work that she does. So thank you, Kyra. Okay. Oh, and I also wanted to say that I've prepared a couple of questions, but I really want for you guys to ask questions. We really want to be a resource for everyone here. So, okay, so 66% of art museum workers who have experienced discrimination in their workplace would agree their workplace culture is negatively affecting their health. Okay, so I want to read a quote from Kyra, kind of related to that statistic, right? So, having worked in all levels of government, I cannot stress how phenomenal it is to work for SAAACAM. From blatant racism to more mundane issues like coworkers complaining that my hair and ethnic attire, i.e. large earrings, colorful print dresses, turbans on occasion, were unprofessional. I hadn't considered just how much that environment impacted my mental and physical health until I didn't have to deal with it. At SAAACAM, I'm free to be the qualified professional I am, and being able to love and to be loved by my coworkers is something more valuable than any paycheck.
And we didn't pay her to say that either.
I wrote it off the clock.
Okay, so leading with compassion. Compassionate leadership involves understanding and responding to the needs, emotions, and challenges of employees. This fosters trust and respect, enhances employee well-being, and reduces burnout. So how do we do this? We do this through active listening, taking the time to truly listen to employees' concerns and ideas, empathy and action. We show understanding by addressing issues with care and providing support where needed. and flexible approaches. We adapt to individual needs, such as offering flexible work arrangements. So my question to you all is, how does leadership at SAAACAM differ from other places that you have worked?
Yeah, I'll start. I was in a toxic work environment before coming to SAAACAM, and just being able to have someone that listens to you from the leadership standpoint and be able to allow you to make decisions and trust your decisions. We often go to Jeff and say, well, Jeff, tell us what to do. And the main thing that Jeff will say to us is, I trust you. And you can make that decision on your own. I really don't want to tell you how to run your department. I want to help you run your department, but I'm not gonna tell you how to run your department. And that trust that he has in us, it's empowering. And so I just am at a level to where I really feel that confidence to move forward in what I do, because I have the support of our leadership.
So at least for me personally, something that our top leadership has done that has really changed the way that I lead, at least, is they're very inquisitive. I am someone who's always very stressed about getting in trouble. If I've done something wrong, if I'm running late, anything like that, I'm always really worried that it's gonna be the catastrophic end of my life, my job, everything. And that just might be because of the family I've grown up in and some other stuff. But what Jeff and our CEO, Deborah Omowale-Jarman, who's the most incredible leader, they have shown me curiosity first. When I come to them with any kind of problem or something's a little bit off, they always ask me, hey, is everything okay? That's the first question. And so something I've done with my staff, they're all really young. They're doing crazy stuff all the time, or something's not going according to plan, and it's easy to naturally get upset and think, why aren't you doing what I'm expecting you to do? But I've completely flipped my thinking, and the first thing I always ask them, if anything's a little awry, is, are you okay? What happened? What's going on? And that's something that I've even adapted to my personal life as well. So that's just one way that leading with compassion has shown up in their leadership and in mine as well.
Yeah. Wow. Right. So we didn't go over these answers. Real talk. Right. So I'm hearing stuff. Y'all not just saying it, right? All right. Cool. Leo too.
He didn't pay us.
This doesn't happen without our leader, Ms. Deborah Omowale-Jarman. Right. Good leadership, good habits. A ministry mindset starts from the top down. And we also understand it's very hard to work in the history business and not understand that everybody has a story. So as you heard, everybody came from some backgrounds, right? So as a leader for me, who's also recovering, knowing that I'm working with people who are in recovery, right? And now we are facilitating this safer space that all of us have been new to, right? Because we put on the mask to go out to other places, but now, all of a sudden, at work, we can take it off. Now, it doesn't mean we get buck wild, right? Because watch this, in an African American museum, we understand that our community demands excellence. Top tier, top shelf excellence, right? And for me, this is the first business where I can say, everything I do is for my ancestors. I clock in, and it's for them. Every email, every conversation, every look, every problem-solving opportunity. Come on, y'all. Every rough conversation. Would my grandmother be proud of how I'm doing this? The people who open doors for me, would they be relieved that they opened that door for me? Everybody on our staff shows up that way, and that's how this compassionate leadership shows up for me. Is because now every day is a purpose. Every conversation, every decision that we make is purposeful, right? And when we move into 103,000 square feet, we have 103,000 reasons to be excellent for so many who came before us. That's how it shows up.
Y'all can tell he's a minister, right?
They do the most. They do the just the
Can you
most.
ask the question now? Is that okay? Who has a question now?
Sure.
And what we've done actually, and we want to hear that question. Actually, what we've done is what we've noticed here at the session, and no shade at all. When we get to the end of the session, it's like, yo, we got 5 minutes, we'll take your questions. No. We have been intentional about what we put together for you today, and we're about to get out the way. We're about to be done to put some things before you, right? So we actually want to give you more time to ask us questions is what I'm saying, right? We actually have a practical takeaway for you, and we'll go over that. And as soon as we go over that, then the time is yours. Now my hope, right, is that you have some questions for us, some real deal questions for us, and that you can get to the heart of some of the things that we're dealing with. Anytime you deal with people, you're going to deal with stuff, right? Anytime you're talking about culture, you got to be real. So my hope is that we have allotted some time for you to be real and vulnerable, because we're going to be real and truthful. So I swear to you, we probably got like 2 more minutes. We're about to give it to you.
That's
on
what
Friday.
the Baptist preacher always says.
We still got to take off.
Yes, sharing the vision. So we clearly communicate the organization's mission, values, and long-term goals to all of our community, all of our employees, well, and the community too. So this will align employee efforts with the organization's objectives and create a sense of purpose and belonging. So I'm going to let y'all read the rest of the slide. My question for you all is, what does sharing the vision look like in your role?
I can start, at least for me and for my team. So my team is comprised of part-time staff. So they're not always around. The leadership team also, all of these people plus that person, they work in a separate building from where the museum is. So there's physical distance, and there's also, structural kind of distance. Well, I think we're structured a little bit differently, which we'll talk about, but there's space. And so something that I think it's basically my job to do is make sure that they're connected to the leadership staff, to kind of where we're all moving towards. So I make sure that they are scheduled to be around these wonderful people. We talk about the mission, we talk about the vision statement. We also do weekly check-ins, and I'm constantly in conversation with them. I'm never trying to impart ideas from the top down onto them. I'm always, hey, what is your thought about this? What do you think about that? And I bring that to our leadership team. And it's just always a constant dialogue and conversation. And they've all also met our CEO. She's a very open person. And they've been around all of the leadership staff. So that's kind of how I do that a little bit.
Okay, and we wanted to share this image of our organizational chart. And so you'll notice that this isn't your typical organizational chart. There's no top, right? It's not a pyramid. And so, sorry, hold on. Yeah, I seem to have lost one.
It's okay, Sandra, you got this.
Okay, so sharing the vision. Okay, so yes, this is our workflow, our chart, our organizational chart, and like I said, it's not a pyramid. And so yes, please take pictures if you'd like. I don't know what the picture was. Protecting your culture. Okay, so safeguarding.
Sandra, wait.
What?
Can you go back?
Yes.
Here, can I help you?
There we go. I just really want, because it's important for me to say this, that all of the areas you see overlap. We all touch each other's areas, departments, and there's a constant flow of communication, partnership, and what's happening. So there's no hierarchy. There's, yes, we have a CEO, yes, we have a COO, but everyone works in tandem. And so I think it's important to see, and then in the center is the community, because that's what we're here for, and that meets up with our mission.
Right.
So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I did find the slide, and yes, everything that Deborah said, but also something that we talked about earlier was that Our CEO, we all really look up to her. Her initials are literally DOJ, y'all. But she also looks up to us, and she legitimately asks us for our opinions, and that's just super valuable in this space.
Yeah, I know.
So this was, we'll hear you, because you have a question about this.
That slide, yes.
Mhm.
If we go back to it. So I see the governance of the board of directors is not necessarily in your little circle there,
Right.
or the several circles together.
Yeah,
So how
it-
does that operate? Because
Mhm.
for many museums and organizations, that's the group that wants to have their stamp, their finger, they want to be in charge, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that they're there, but they're not in the midst. So how does that work for you all? And are they your fundraising group? Like, what roles do they play?
They're an advisory board, right? It works just like you see, they're not in the way. They're not in the way, right? They matter, but you see who's at the heart of it. Our true boss and our true constituent is the community, right? So, for instance, we've had, over the course of a few charrettes now, maybe 200 people come and give us their opinion on what should be in the museum. Not the donors, not the board. What does the community want? Because watch this. When people begin to act up, the community keeps them in check. You see what I'm saying? Now, you also have to be very careful with who you have on your board. And how do you recruit people on your board? Who's involved in that process, right? That's a process that's inclusive of not just our executive director, our CEO, but it's also inclusive of people on staff as well, right? Our board is not in the mix, but they are in the know. Does that make sense? When we started in 2017, we had a working board where a board had to do everything, right? And sometimes it's kind of hard to work with people who have been the founders, the doers, right? Until they go on and move on. And some people never really move on. But for us, we have an understanding that if we're going to move forward, we need them to cut the red tape, not be the red tape. We need them to cut the red tape and not be the red tape. And we have some board members who are committed to staying out of the way, but also being in that advisory role. So I think what's helped us too is board training. Understanding that sometimes people don't know how to operate on the board. They've never been trained. How many people have ever been asked to be on the board but offered no training? So how does that work? You know what I'm saying? You're coming in with an empty toolbox, having to build history. And that's hard to do. So training, understanding the vision, being baptized in what we do and who we are is essential for anybody trying to be in an advisory role. You can't advise what you don't know. So they out the way. Respectfully. Because this is recorded.
We love our board. We do love our board.
We do love our board. And it's not a contentious relationship
Not
at
at all.
Not at
all,
And-
right? Which is great.
And that's another thing. A lot of the younger staff, part-time staff, they've also met a lot of our board too. We're constantly in dialogue and conversation at every level of our museum.
Okay.
Thank you.
So protecting the culture, safeguarding the core values and practices that define our organization's culture. And so we talked about that too, right, the festering. So the question that I have is, how do you navigate differences and or conflicts within your organization?
They just looked at me because, well, just addressing it at the core. Because when there's an issue between two staff members and you let that issue continue and no one addresses the problem, they don't want me to use the term moldy fruit, but I love it. Because what happens when fruit touch the other fruit and one piece is not good? It will affect the other, and it affects it negatively. And so at the heart of one of the things I love that Jeff does, he's restorative. So you can come to him and say, I have a problem, how do I solve this? And one of the key words is you teach people how to treat you. And not in a negative way, but in a positive way. How do we address each other? Are we being negative toward each other in this situation? Did I actually understand what it is you were expressing to me? or was I just in my own feelings? So a lot of times we're reminded, take your feelings out of it and try to listen to what the other person is expressing so that you can address the issue head on. We never let an issue continue and continue on and never address that issue. And that is the way that we've been able to restore and keep a positive workflow between all staff members.
And you notice Deborah used the word restorative, and that comes from Strength Finders. How many people have heard of Strength Finders? So, raise your hand high if you heard of it. That is a requirement when you come to SAAACAM. It should be a requirement for every relationship you get into. Because here it is, we my brother in the background, you laughing, right? In real talk, right? Because we said, well, what's your love language, right? We've heard of that, right? I need to, ask them, okay, cool, but how do you show up at work? You show up as you are. So restorative means that you want to make things right. But we also have some people who are more visionary. We also have people who are more analytical, right? And the people who are analytical tend to ask a lot of questions. A lot of questions. But they matter. But again, if I know their strength and I can identify it and I know it, when the question comes, I'm not tripping. It doesn't rub me the wrong way, but that's how you operate. So I need to make sure I'm now clear in my communication. So it goes from being moldy fruit to a moldy situation. Because the reason why I don't like moldy fruit is because it's deficit toward a person, when really the issue is the situation. So we got a moldy situation that we got to fix. And if you don't fix a moldy situation, the whole house is affected, right? And the most toughest thing that we deal with is having hard conversations. Try it in your own personal life. How many times did you just text something, but it's not really what you wanted to say? It just, maybe I'll say it this way and see what happens, right? If you're never forward in what you do, you never move forward. You have to move forward with everything, right? So that's why it's super important that we understand everybody's strengths. So you hear everybody here, when we talk in just common talk, we start talking about people's strengths. Because we now unknowingly, we memorize how everyone is. That's why the culture is moving forward, because it's not like that person gets on my nerve. No. You don't understand that person. Because to them, they're 100% normal. Like, don't everybody think this way? So now when we come together and we have meetings or we have discord or we have disagreement, which is natural, no one takes it personal because they're saying, oh, wait a minute, that's how you're wired, which is not a bad thing. I just know more about you. So now I can accomplish more with you, right? It's like a love language at work.
Okay, it's y'all's turn.
Beautiful. Before we get there. So Kyra's gonna pass out these. So it is a handout, right? So we're gonna ask you to get it in your hand, just give it to the first person and you guys can pass it back. What it is are 5 steps to improve culture right away. A lot of times when you come to conferences and you come to sessions, you get a whole bunch of concepts, but you don't get a game plan or something that you can use right now. So as this is coming around, I want you to understand when you see it, these are 5 things that we typically do at SAAACAM, but also things that you can do right now that can improve your culture. I hope you're not in the room this session with anybody that works with you, but just, oh shoot, just give me the church finger if you work in a situation where the culture probably can improve. Just give me the church finger. Just
gotta look around.
Somebody in the back like this. Somebody waving like, all right, listen, they better hope I come back. Listen, what you will see, he sits in the back like, yes. What you will see are 5 ways right now, immediately, that you can impact your organizational culture if you do it intentionally, right? The first one, prioritize employee mental health and well-being. That's top and foremost. Straight up. If you're not well, you're not going to show up well, you're not going to work well, you're not going to collaborate well. Are you okay? And if you are not, I need you to go get okay. I'm here with you, but sometimes what you need to do don't involve me. Or it involves me saying, now you have that flexible work schedule, right? One thing we like to do is, and it's small, I don't want to see any emails after 10. Kyra knows this, right? Yeah. Some people on this DS right here understand. If I see an email at 10, I appreciate the information. Thank you. What you doing up at 10? Like flat out. Now some people say, well, you got to work, you got to live too. And if you don't reset and you come back because you've been up all night, or if they get an email from me at 12 a.m., then they think as the leader, they got to push like me and be up. I have to be cognizant of that. So yes, sometimes I do send an email at 12 midnight, but I put it on auto send. So it'll get to you at 9 o'clock. That's a quick fix. And it also is mindful of people's mental health, right? And also, if I know you and I see you every day and I see physically that you're not right, I'm not just going to get, well, it's personal. I'm not going to say anything about it. No. Come here. Is everything good? Our leader does that. Our leader does that to me, like she's in my business, right? Like a mom. So I have no choice but to say, hey, are you okay? Is everything all right? Number 2, enhance trust and transparency. Being open and honest. And for me, and for SAAACAM, that really involves inviting people up to the balcony. Think about it like this. You've ever heard that leadership term, balcony? Leaders are on the balcony. Then you have people who do the work that are on the dance floor. And sometimes it's hard to see what's coming ahead if you're always on the dance floor. Sometimes you have to invite people up to the balcony just a little bit. Now, if you hoard power, you're not going to do that. And sometimes what you see on the balcony is ugly. It's scary. It's daunting, right? But it's honest. It is real. And it needs your help. And sometimes you realize at certain levels of leadership, I'm getting dizzy up here. I'm getting the nosebleed up here. This ain't where I want to be, but I appreciate you inviting me up. That's the transparency we're talking about. How many people have ever been in a situation you don't know what was going on up top until all hell broke loose? And then you in the meeting like, so we would have liked to hear about this a month ago. Because your lack of transparency is now my emergency. And now my job is on the line for what you didn't tell me. Come on, y'all. None of y'all go through that. I get it. Number 3, invest in leadership development. Now, there's some people here that were at the AAAM conference. And they asked, okay, where are you from? San Antonio. I just met somebody from San Antonio. You doggone Skippy, because we had 11 people there. It's not enough to say we're going to be the 3rd largest if you don't grow in capacity. Are you putting your people in a position to learn and grow and develop? So we have a process at SAAACAM. As leadership, we're going to identify sessions and workshops, but I expect to see emails from you saying, hey man, there's a workshop that I want to really be a part of. Okay, go. Okay, go. And bring back something. So we have a project called 555. After you go to a conference, when you come back, what are you going to be thinking about the first 5 days? What are you just thinking about? What are your wonderings? The next 5 weeks, who are you going to collaborate with to implement the change that you thought about? And over the next 5 months, how are you going to institute some systemic change and build systems that propel us forward far beyond you being with us? 555. Because now that's our ROI, our return on interest, right? Because if we pay the money for you to go and you eat well, right? Steakhouse was real nice last night. We got receipts. We did communities resource. But my thing is, like, you don't put your people in a Motel 6. You don't give them fast food. You treat them right? Because at the end of the day, after you go through that development, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to be better for us, but most importantly, better for yourself. And when you go on to succeed, you're going to say, I learned that at SAAACAM. I want you to stay with us. But if I feel like there's more for you to do, I'm going to push you out. I'm going to push you out. Because I don't want to be a steward of stagnation. Can't do that, right? Number 4, foster a culture of continuous learning. Everybody gets better. We have 2 members on our staff who are what they say, quote unquote, museum trained professionals. Our archivist in the back, who has a session tomorrow. Y'all need to see it, Walking the Walk, right? And our historian. Those are the only 2 people at SAAACAM with museum backgrounds at the 3rd largest African American museum in the country. The flex is you have to do museums in a different way, taking nothing away from people who have been classically trained. How many of our visitors are though? Are we looking through their lens too, right? But at the same time, we also know, with that being said, there are things that we have to learn continuously.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if last week, SAAACAM, if you were in Alabama last week, learning and growing.
1, 2, 3.
Raise your hand if you were in Alabama this week, learning and growing. So now they have 2 555 projects due when they get back, right? But at the same time, you never stop growing, you never stop learning, you never stop stretching, and that starts from the top down. And
Even our volunteers
Yes.
are a part of training and also of what we like to say loving on. And so we love on our volunteers as well. We make sure there's training available for our volunteers, and our volunteers appreciate that.
And last but not least, it speaks for itself, number 5, promote DEI. And here's what I want to say about that. If it's a checkbox, we don't want it. DEI is not what you do, it's who you are. And if it's not who you are, if you're not inclusive, if you're not diverse, if you're not equitable, please take those acronyms off of your LinkedIn.
Mm.
That's not who you are. Stop playing with me.
Mm.
Stop. Like, that's not who you are. So DEI for us is not a checkbox, because we work in the African American Museum. Our phones and our emails are inundated through the months of February, or in the month of February and June.
Mm.
And then I kindly remind people when I return their call, no need to rush by getting us into your organization to talk about Black history, because we're Black all day, every day. I'm still Black in March. And I'm even Blacker in November. So no, we're not coming out, because I feel like it's a checkbox. Watch this. All money ain't good money. Every opportunity is not our opportunity. So no longer do we have to shuck, jive, tap dance for people who don't prioritize us, because we prioritize ourselves. Deborah Seward said it best. You teach people how to treat you, right? So for us, if you really want to know how we feel about DEI, look at who we are, not what we say we are, okay? So at this point, we want to leave some question and answer time for you. So right now, we are
This
at
gentleman
your
had a
mercy.
question first.
Yes, I know. He had a first question. Polo.
Nah. First of all, I commend y'all. I think y'all deserve
Our leader. It's on camera, because our leader deserves that.
Yeah,
Our leader deserves that.
So I work in the museum field myself, and what I just heard was really a utopia situation.
It feels like
It
that.
feels that way.
And it's all good. It's a utopia situation, right? I don't think that maybe 90% of this audience may have that same experience
For sure.
that y'all are articulating, that we all probably would love to have.
Sure.
Okay, that being the case, 2 questions. One, the young lady here, she talked about this authentication as far as degrees. Some say disease, right? And so how can we as museums eliminate these so-called diseases to authenticate who should travel in that realm, okay, of positions?
Right.
That's number 1, because everything that y'all saying is beautiful. I think that eradication, because you don't need a disease, and I'm going to say it again, degree,
Right.
to really go anywhere. Tell that to Steve Jobs or one of them, right? Second, y'all talked about, well, first I want to hear that.
May I'll answer that one.
And so this is the second one,
Okay.
just to be clear, so I don't forget, is what are y'all doing, and I don't know where I'm at with this one here. What are y'all doing? Like I said, this is Utopia's decision. We talk about culture and community and all that engagement. What are y'all doing specifically as far as re-engaging those individuals who have been system impacted into the museum field? Okay, those individuals, how are y'all treating them? Are they welcoming? Are y'all hiring individuals who have been system impacted? System impacted, for those who don't know, is those who are returning citizens.
Right. Okay.
So, you talked about the disease degree, and there's no, shade to anybody that has a degree, but I will say this: when I was brought into the museum, I do not have a museum background or degree, and the CEO approached me about the position, and I laughed because I did not feel that I was qualified for the position. And little funny story is she knows me, so she called me and she says, "Where's your resume? I've been waiting for it." And I said, oh, surely you want someone else, because I read over the job description. And she said, Deborah, you have the lived experience that we need for this position. And then I met Jeff, and he talked about what it was that SAAACAM was looking for in a community engagement coordinator, and built the department around my work experience and what I had to offer, and allowed me the opportunity to build it out to what it is now. And I know what it will be. As he said, 555, we work on our strategic planning. And so our strategic planning is allowing me to build that department even when I'm no longer there. So yes, you don't have to be degreed to be in this position. You don't have to have, all the accolades. That's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you look at the person and see who's qualified for that position, and what does that person bring to the table.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. The position that Deborah's talking about, a community engagement coordinator, was a framework. It gets its breath and life by the person who comes in a position, right? And let's be clear, Deborah earned that position because she was one of 8 applicants and came out on top. So even in life, nothing's given. You get what I'm saying? She spoke to the position because she saw herself in it. You see what I'm saying? And she also understood what we were looking for didn't necessarily pertain to what she was bringing with her in degrees and things of that nature, right? So we do truthfully look at the person, but Deborah locked that up. She locked that up. When we have panel interviews, you know what I mean? So I don't want nobody to think there's no funny business going on, right? Where the CEO reaches out. The CEO said, yeah, I want to see your resume, but it still got to go through Jeff, right? And it has to go through that means, because what's worse than hiring somebody just because they have a degree? Hiring somebody and they didn't earn it, right? And then that affects your culture too. Y'all know what I'm saying? As far as those who are, returning home, and that's what I said, right? We just talked about that, right? There's a gentleman who spent 30 years of his life, who's given a sentence of life. And God intervened in such a way that he was released. He came to San Antonio, see his mother, and he says, I'm ready to go to work. And the brother could have done anything he wanted to do, but he wanted to work at the museum. And he said, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. I don't care what it is. I don't have any pride behind what I'm doing. So I'll work for you and do whatever. And I said, well, actually, with your resume, your qualifications, I don't necessarily need you working for me, but I need you building this department and leading a department, hospitality. I need you to be head of hospitality. And he looked at me and said, me? You. Because people need to hear your story first and foremost. So he is one of millions, right, that can hear about restoration, hear about second chances, hear about people not looking at you because of what happened to you. You know what I'm saying? Or what people called you. It's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. And he had a higher answer of excellence that he wanted to have. Now, some people would say, are you sure you want to do that? I'm positive I want to do that. I want everybody who comes to our museum to see him first. And I want the hospitality team to be trained by somebody who knows what hospitality means. And then to be able to engage in his story, to be able to tell people, right? Because I don't want him to hide the story either. I want him to be able to tell his story, right? Not only through how he executes the work, but the conversations that he'll have with people who visit our museum. So it's funny you said that, because this gentleman now will be the head of our hospitality team. We're not even calling it security.
Well, I think y'all should do some training lessons for the whole African American. For real.
Well, because I have a big family, and everything you can imagine is happening in my family. So when I saw this brother, I saw my brother. I saw my uncle. I saw a man. I saw a human being. I saw the head of our hospitality. You feel me? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I want to speak to this. Thank you, first of all, for being here. It's wonderful to hear how your organization is growing, and I'm really excited because I'm from Texas, I'm from Houston, and I got family
H-Town?
H-Town in the building.
So I want to speak to this like utopia situation because what you're doing is incredible and it's amazing. If you're able to build this organization based upon principles that a lot of museums that have existed for a long time are trying to move toward, but it's taking so much longer because we're dealing with majority white boards, we're dealing with majority white staff, we're dealing in a very white male dominated field, and so not everybody is able to be employed by an organization such as yourself that is already like square one, day one, they're already doing these things. And so what are these tips that you've given us? What are some things that you can say to people who are not at those top positions right now? I turn 28 next week. Shout out to my 30 and 30.
Let's go.
Happy birthday.
Who, we're just getting into this field really, and it's discouraging to feel like to be in an organization, to be in a field where we have to wait 30 years to feel like we can actually enact some real change. So what are some things that you can give to people who are in these, I don't want to say lower positions, but are on the dance floor, right? What can we do? Because some of us may never leave the dance floor, and that's the reality of it.
Sure.
So what are some things that we can enact? Because these 5 tips seem really, they top down, and that's a lot about what you're talking about. But what
Sure.
about people who are on the dance floor? How do we shout up to the balcony in a way that's impactful?
Right. I want to let the person in your peer group answer that question.
I mean, like I said before, I'm in a really unique position because this is my first role like this, and it is this very positive and special environment. When you first started asking the question, I was kind of thinking about another seminar that I had gone to, not here, but somewhere else. And actually I'm thinking about 2 things. One, finding people that you feel safe around, that you can kind of talk to about what you think needs to be changed, and kind of figuring out how you can maybe implement that in your space. But also, I think in these environments where they are traditionally white and male dominated and everyone's a lot older, I think you have to open yourself up to some risk and saying some bold things, because that's the only way I think that you can impart change in systems that are really stuck like this. That is my thought.
I want to be truthful about this one too. Taylor was bold, right? That position for exhibit space supervisor opened up, and I will say this, and we're recorded, so I won't say any names. The individual who's no longer with our organization said she's too young. She's no longer with our organization. I said she's just right. She was bold enough to say, I can do it, let me apply. You have to be bold, right? And you have to be courageous, but when your name is called, you better show up, right? I also think teaching people how to treat you. Sometimes the biggest blessing we give people is our presence, right? I don't want to be somewhere where I'm tolerated. I want to be where I'm celebrated. Don't stay where you're tolerated. Go where you're celebrated, because you will purposely always be on the dance floor. You see what I'm saying? Even in what you said, some of us will always be on the, listen, you have what you want. You have what you tolerate. The moment you show up and you say, you know what, I'm better than this. I've been looking at some professional developments. Let people show you how they value you. If you continue to hear people say, no, that's not for you right now, just wait. No, you don't want to do that right now, we're gonna reserve it. I got something else for you, but they never tell you what they have for you. They don't have a plan for you. You see what I'm saying? If they don't bring you to the table, you're on the menu. You feel me? If you may not have a chair at that damn table, but you better stand at the table. Be at the door. Be somewhere where you can see the table. You feel me? Bring your own chair, a white folding one. Sometimes, y'all messy. But teach people how to treat you. Teach people how to treat you. Identify where you want to go to.
Yeah.
You got to set your attentions to where you want to be. Don't allow people to do that for you when they haven't showed you that they're thinking about where you want to go. Does that make
May I
sense?
say to our directors in the room, those that are in charge, make sure that you are leaning into your staff in a way that is productive and restorative, and to let them know that they are a part of the team and you're not just making all the decisions without their input. because that does not lend to a beautiful staff. And yes, this is a unique, as Taylor said, situation, starting with our CEO. She is the person that makes it so euphoric because of the way she leads. And everybody's opinion matters, from the learned scholar, most learned scholar, to a new employee that just started, or an intern. So important. Sir, you
Yeah,
had a question?
We,
and
yeah,
see you
we
in the
see
back.
3 hands, and we're gonna get to them too.
Okay, your organization seems to be doing a very good job in placing younger people, and I was wondering about, what about those who have been in an organization, not yours is a new organization, but museum field in general, who have been in that organization for decades and have invested in themselves. Additional degrees, but additional courses for which they pay themselves. And would they aspire to so-called leadership positions? No, because they're too old. So it's the other point of view. Yes, but people can engage in intergenerational learning, and there is an expression, you can learn from your elders. Hello.
That's right.
Especially in a particular corporate environment where people have been there and they knew that mistakes were made in the past.
Sure.
And newer people come in and say, let's do it this way. Well, we did.
Right. So to answer your question, maybe by way of example, our CEO is twice retired.
Okay,
Twice retired and self-learned in his business.
and come back.
And that's come back, right? We have a coordinator, Ms. Velma, who's older than our CEO, who is our oral history coordinator, who just wants to come back and, work. And so everyone has value because everyone can do something, and everybody's opinion matters. Everybody counts. Everybody is at the table. So Ms. Velma came to Baltimore, DC, and New York City with us. She went on that trek with us, learning and growing, right? Just like Taylor came, learning and growing. So everybody's brought to the table. You need everybody in your family. There is no kiddie table. There is no senior citizen couch. There is a boardroom where everybody matters and everybody's important, because we would not be where we are without our elders. We would not dare divorce ourselves from our history like that.
Sounds good. In practice, it doesn't always happen, unfortunately.
It doesn't always happen everywhere, but I'm blessed to be here.
Okay, well.
And I get that.
Different.
I get
It's
that.
different.
Yep, yes, ma'am,
That's it.
right here in the back.
Okay, there we go.
So, leading into kind of what you were saying about leading, so I would say I'm in a middle management type position, right? So I report to somebody who's our executive director, and then we have young people on staff. When I say young, they're under 30, like up to mid 30s. And, for somebody who's in the middle and trying to lean in and be empathetic to the younger people, but then we get like stressed out decisions from the top. And how can I work, if you have suggestions, to try to be that mediator to teach up, as well as sympathizing with, empathizing, and supporting the younger generation so that they're not getting frustrated and like wanting to quit, right? So I try to have those conversations like, hey, like people are saying things, don't take those things personally, like from a professional perspective, but then our leadership sometimes gets stressed and like that shows in the, okay, just do this, or like last-minute things, and nobody works very well in that type of environment. So I feel like it's my responsibility to figure out a way to change the culture in a way that I can, to be supportive of what our leader needs, but also to be supportive of the way that our staff works.
Yeah.
We need more leaders like you, because there are leaders who are in the middle. The greatest leaders are in the middle, because those are the people that don't need the titles to feel the weight. So what I hear you say is, this is a ministry for me, because I see the younger ones looking at me, but I also see the stress up top. You're in the perfect position to be the liaison, right? But you got to do first is check your temperature, like we heard our keynote say the other day. What do your emotions look like? How are you showing up? Because they're watching you. We do know that a younger generation is not so much listening to what you say as much as they're watching what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for you to be able to show them how to show up is key. but to be able to speak up as you manage up, because that's what we call that, right? In most circles, managing up involves being able to have a safe space to be able to say, hey, I notice you're stressed. Are you okay? Listen, when my staff comes to me and asks me, am I okay? That breaks me. Because I'm not used to that. I'm used to being on that grind wheel. But I also begin to look at them in such a way to say, you know, you need more responsibility because now you're looking at it through a leadership lens too. Even in that moment to say, are you okay to your manager is key to be able to spark some conversation. And then to say, as they go into how they're feeling, to say, you know what, that must be trickling down because I noticed. You see what I'm saying? Because now, if they have a heart for leadership and understand that, and they don't, and they have a thick skin, then they'll be able to take what you say, right? But sometimes if you're in your feelings or you got that imposter syndrome, you can't take what someone says because you have to do it. Eliminating the imposter syndrome and divorcing yourself from disease to please is the way forward.
I think
And that's hard work.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think also, if you haven't, I mean, we already talked about strength finders a little bit, but it does create a lot of understanding for the executive team. Maybe it might help for them to see how the younger staff works, you know? I don't know. Strength finders has not only been a way to not take things personally, but it's also been really empowering for myself, knowing how I just work as a young person. So I think I would encourage implementing that in your organization as well, if you can.
There was a exercise we did, we're gonna come to you, and it was really transformative for our staff. Y'all know those big cookout plates, paper plates? We did an activity called What's on Your Plate with the entire staff. And the entire staff put down every responsibility that they had. Some people's plates were full.
Need an extra plate.
Some people needed an extra plate. Some people had to write on the back, right? And what we did was we passed that plate around. Put the person's name on it, we put what was on their plate. That caused a few things to happen. There was some empathy there.
Yeah.
There was some people thinking about, wow, you do all of that.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to be cognizant of what I asked you. I don't want to add more to your plate.
Right.
You begin to have compassion for a person because you saw all that they did. But then you begin to say, as I got that plate in front of me, the question was, so how do you think about the person whose plate you're holding? Ask around. How do you think you can support that person? What didn't you know about their responsibilities? So it's a series of questions that you ask, right, that are empathy based, but it's nothing like seeing what someone has on their plate. How many people have heard your coworker say, I just got a lot going on right now? That sounds ambiguous, doesn't it? Like, what do you mean you have that? That means that sounds like an excuse to me until you actually
See it for yourself.
and then you say, wow. So now the next time they say, I'm a little bit stressed out, you remember what?
What's on their plate?
And now you know they're not blowing smoke, but now you're saying, how can I help? How can I lean in? Right? And I think that helps with culture too, because it's an understanding, right? And you're not sugarcoating what you do.
Right.
So the What's on Your Plate exercise it was really helpful to us. Yes, ma'am.
One, thank y'all for this presentation, it's wonderful. And two, I really appreciate it because I can't lie, I'm very blessed to come from one of the 1%, this very rare situation. I work at the African American Museum in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And we have a phenomenal leader, Dr. Ashley Jordan, you know, AAAM, she's on the board,
She's dope.
yeah, definitely. And with that being said, she also tries to implement that same kind of leadership in our institution. And within the span of 2 weeks, I have gone from being a humble coordinator to now moving into some of those more serious and executive rooms. And that's just because of the word trust, which I am so grateful for. Simultaneously, outside of the museum, I run this really important project where now a bunch of people are also looking at me and looking for that word trust. And so there is something liberating about the word trust. You can do what you want, you can ask more questions, but also there's something intimidating too. As a young professional myself, I am freshly 28. But saying the word, yes. But saying the word trust is like, oh wait, I just got here. I am still an emerging professional. And even if I wasn't in that case, you now are looking at me to make sure that things will be executed. And I believe in myself that I can do it, but you know, there's some moments where, oh my gosh, you trust me to do this.
Right.
So how do you create moments of encouragement when it comes to that word trust? Or how, as an up-and-coming staff or an emerging professional, do you navigate through that word trust? Because it's still something that you're learning throughout the course of your time at any institution.
I know it can be a trigger to the staff when I say trust, and I did, because Kyra came from a situation too where they had a thumb on her. I want you to do it this way, do it this. So when you come to a new situation, what do? You use those same, right? You expect me to tell you, and it got to a point where in our one-on-ones, and you okay with me saying this?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Taylor's okay with me saying this. In our one-on-ones, we get to a point where we say, this is not where you were. So I want to talk about how you're recovering from where you were. It's not the word trust. It's your PTSD.
That is true.
So let's talk about that. You feel me? So what that does is that level of honesty and openness and rawness helps you to then eliminate the imposter syndrome. It's so easy to show up thinking that you're supposed to know what I'm supposed to have, and I'm in this position and I'm young. You're in this position because you can do it. You just took a deep breath. You're in this position because you can do it, and I trust you. And with that word trust also has to come this context. It's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about the most was like, even if something doesn't go 100%, it doesn't go perfect. I've planned events and they did not.
But you can see it on her face when an event is messed up.
I've done things that, they have been a little bit tighter, better, sure, but I'm learning, whatever. And so my bosses do a really good job of,
Let's reevaluate.
well, no, I'm making it sound like I did a bad job. I didn't, but I'm not at the level. I can't see everything that my CEO can see because she's just lived more life than me and she has more experience. But they do a really good job of talking to me about what I've learned after I've done something instead of being like, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, don't do this, don't do that. So I feel very safe to fail actually, and encouraged to just learn. I don't see it as this like world-ending problem if I mess something up.
Because it's looked at as opportunities.
Yeah.
It was, what's the opportunity that we may have missed here?
Yeah.
And it's not that you just did everything wrong.
Yeah.
There was a missed opportunity, but next time we can look at it as a different way of leaning into that opportunity. And so I think that's what gives us the way of feeling that we are empowered, and even in our failure attempts to things that may look like failures, but we're empowered because it's like a missed opportunity, but we can enhance and you grow from that learning experience.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I thought there was a two-part to it. I think I just really focused on the word trust and get it out. But outside of now moving into leadership at my primary institution, I also run an organization outside of work that is also within the Black historical lens. So I now have employees who are older than me, younger than me, all over the branch, and I have to release some of the things that I've been doing independently and trust them. So as a leader, what does trust look like and feel like with your employees?
Because you have the
That's applicable to anyone.
I'm looking at her because she has a staff
I
that's
do.
that she has to trust them to run the exhibit staff,
Yeah.
and we're in Alabama.
Yeah.
They could be there having a party. No, but
I do think about that, and also when we're planning events, programs, I really encourage them to have ideas and execute them. And me being the leader, their leader, sometimes I want to do everything and check everything and be there for everything, and they really tell me, they're like, hey, we want to take some of this, you can trust us. And so that's something I'm still, bless you, that's something I'm still working on, because it's hard to let things go, but I don't know, Jeff and Deborah, they do a really good job of giving me things to do, and trusting that I'll do a good job. So I just try to do that with them as well, but it is difficult.
It's a practice, we're gonna come here. It's a practice for us, the CEO and myself, to get together every week to say, just because people don't do it the way we do it doesn't mean it's done wrong. Verbatim, that's our conversation. Just because it's not done the way we do it doesn't mean it's done wrong. Because when we started in 2017, they started with 2 employees, quickly moved to 3. So they were used to doing everything. Our CEO was used to doing everything. So when I got the job, I said, I'm gonna take it contingent upon this. We trust the staff to do. what we've hired the staff to do. And if the
Yeah,
staff
5
doesn't
minutes
do
max.
it the way we do it, doesn't mean it's not done.
So I don't have much of a question, it's more of a statement. I know we talked about earlier about the disease degree or whatever. I have a PhD in American Cultural Studies. I have a graduate in public history. I also have a certification in historical preservation.
Sure.
I just want people to, like, in these spaces to know that just because I have all this education
Sure.
does not mean that I don't have the experience.
Mm.
So I just want people, like, you know, when they look at me and having all these, you know, degrees, I just don't want people like to think that I just, you know, have this education.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I know the culture. Like, I know, like, I know what I'm talking about when it
Yeah.
comes to, I have a lived experience. So it's just the education that enhances that. So I just want people to know that when you're, you know, talking, or you have colleagues, or you have direct reports, and thinking that, you know, that they have all these degrees doesn't mean that, you know, that they don't have this experience. And I mean, I granted that the conversation that was happening earlier was, you know, not to down the
Correct.
education.
Right.
But I just want to speak up for, because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I felt a special kind of way about the conversation that was happening earlier, because it's
Sure.
like, it was like saying that I'm like, I wouldn't be able to do the job because I have all this
Right.
education. I have the experience too.
Sure.
So that, I just wanted to make that clear. I wanted to insert that in the
As you, and I see you want to clarify, and because you don't work at SAAACAM. and I need to, what I want to say is, I appreciate your journey. Because as a woman of color, it wasn't easy getting what you got.
Right.
Nobody gave you a damn thing.
Right.
So I celebrate you, sis,
Right.
because you ought to speak up for yourself. You ought to speak up for those who had it. But your journey ain't been easy. And that's what we want at SAAACAM. So please don't, I certainly don't want it to look like that's what
The
we're saying,
implication was
because
that,
certainly
yeah.
not. We need
Yeah.
everybody with everything to the table, and even
Right.
those who had a journey to get to what they got. Nobody gave you nothing.
This is like
And-
everybody's welcome.
Yeah, and everybody's welcome in
Yeah.
that, and we value all of that. And we don't alienate at the same time people that don't have it either.
Right.
Oh, I get that too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but we certainly, it's not a bad thing over here. Like, we celebrate that. There are people, who's got a PhD in here? Raise your hand high. There are people who have come into our space and said, well, just call me Linda. Well, the world calls you Linda on purpose to
Right.
not want to call,
You
especially a woman of color, a doctor. They always die. We have a person on staff, her name is Kat, but Dr. Walters, good morning. Every morning, right? Because I'm not acknowledging the title, I'm acknowledging the journey. I'm acknowledging who didn't acknowledge you. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I want to right that situation, so I never want to disqualify anybody from their learned experience.
Right.
I want to elevate.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do at SAAACAM.
Yes,
Can I-
ma'am.
can I-
Yes, yes, sir. I'll let you do your thing.
Please.
I know you have to.
So,
We got
I just,
We got 2 minutes and we'll wrap up.
Second, I want to clarify the statement in which my beautiful sister here was referring to. You know, in no way was I downsizing or, belittling individuals that went through that training course, sometimes at a high, state that we all go through, right? I went to the University of Pittsburgh. The point that I was making was that today, jobs use degrees as a design to deny those individuals, especially those of the African American community, the right to advance in certain areas in their departments, right? I commend everyone who go to college, get bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. But what I'm saying is that we have to be mindful that it should not take a degree for an individual to elevate in an organization, and that they have intentionally used degrees to deny individuals certain positions based on the fact that you're not qualified, when in fact you may be overqualified. So that's all I was saying, sis. I love you and congratulations.
Yeah, I love a family reunion.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to stick around.
Over
If you have
here,
any
answer
questions,
questions.
please feel free to come up and ask us. Thank you so much.
Please come and talk to us. Thank you.